Hey guys, it's Bub here. The iPhone 5S is going to turn 8 years old this year. With a design that still looks good in 2021 and it's sort of still being used in the iPhone SE 2020, this phone really begs the question, should you use an iPhone 5S as your daily driver in 2021? In this video, we'll be testing the iPhone 5S and seeing if it's still a good device 8 years after its original release. Before we begin, let's get the technical specs out of the way. The iPhone 5S uses Apple's A7 chip, which is the first Apple chip to use a 64-bit architecture, meaning the iPhone 5S is the oldest iPhone to use a 64-bit chip. The iPhone 5S originally came in three sizes: 16, 32, and 64 gigabytes of internal storage. There's currently an 1136 by 644 inch display on the iPhone 5S with a 1570 mAh battery that, if not replaced after 8 years of use, these phones definitely do not hold up well battery-wise. There's currently 1 gigabyte of RAM in the iPhone 5S, which is definitely not enough for today's tasks. In fact, it may not even be enough to browse the internet on Google Chrome. Now, let's move on to the user interface navigation. Just scrolling around the home screen, opening search, and looking at the widgets, there's not too much lag. Maybe a little jitter or two, maybe a slow lag at first, but then things usually clear up. However, we start to see the real lag when we open applications. Opening settings, we can see that it takes really long for our settings to show up. In fact, longer than usual, even with the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 10. Going ahead and opening the App Store, we can see how long the App Store even takes to load compared to a 6s or, again, a 10. Opening the Files app, it takes a while for things to load. That's kind of expected for an 8-year-old phone. Every app that you launch on the iPhone 5S makes you wait on a little loading screen for a long time before it launches. Now, obviously, right now that may not seem like a big deal, but after a while you do get used to it. However, I really prefer the snappiness of being able to tap on the app and there's all your stuff right there. So definitely the 1 gigabyte of RAM and the slow processor is hitting us right now. Now, let's take a look at the App Store. Besides the App Store taking a relatively long time to load, most apps on the Apple App Store only require iOS 10 or above, meaning the iPhone 5S that only supports up to iOS 12 will be able to run most apps on the App Store. In fact, an app that I take a look at in this actual video only requires iOS 8 or newer, so most apps should support the iPhone 5S as of right now. Any app on the App Store installs like pretty much any app on any other iPhone. It's that simple. You just go ahead, click Get, authenticate yourself with either your password or your fingerprint, and there you go. You're done. You're installing your app from the App Store. So nothing much has really changed. Now we're going to be taking a look at the iPhone 5S's camera. The back camera on this iPhone is 8 megapixels, and the front camera is 1.2 megapixels. By today's standards, these really aren't very good. However, how does the camera actually perform? We took a picture of the Intel Pentium 2 with the back camera of this iPhone 5S, and I took a picture of my Canon G7X Mark II recording this video with the front-facing camera on this iPhone 5S. And well, you can judge the pictures for yourself. Here is the back-facing camera that we took on the Intel Pentium 2, and here is the front-facing image that I was able to take with the 1.2 megapixel front camera. Honestly, they don't look too bad, but they don't look too good, especially considering what's out on the market today. So I would give this roughly, I don't even know what to give this. Not good, not bad. Now we get to talk about the one thing that really set the iPhone 5S different from the iPhone 5, and that is Touch ID. Now you have to remember that this iPhone 5S does have the first generation of Touch ID, as this is the first Apple device to ever feature Touch ID in it. Compared to the iPhone 6s or 7 or even 8, Touch ID on this 5S is extremely slow, and it's not ideal for unlocking in 2021. This is really not accurate at all, and it's honestly not even very good. However, I will give Touch ID credit. Touch ID works significantly better when you're wearing a mask with Face ID. So I'll give them that. I'll give them credit for that, but it's still not very good. Now let's talk about one of the only reasons why someone may still want to buy an iPhone 5S in 2021, the size. By 2021 standards, the 4-inch display is definitely nowhere big enough for modern tasks. However, some people really love the form factor of the 5S and just having a smaller phone in general. And for that crowd, I would say please buy an iPhone SE from 2016. You will not find an iPhone 5S with as good as performance as the iPhone SE 2016. This phone does feel really tiny in the hand, as you can see on my iFixit mat. That's a pretty tiny diagram there. The last time that Apple used this iPhone 5S design, as I mentioned earlier, was in 2016. The iPhone SE 2016, which is the first generation of iPhone SE, was the last iPhone to use this design. The iPhone SE 2020 is bigger than this, and it does have those rounded edges. So overall, if you want a phone that's smaller, please get an iPhone SE 2016. Now I want to talk about something that I feel like a lot of reviewers should start talking about: the repairability of devices. This iPhone 5S is extremely easy to open. All you need is a screwdriver, which needs a custom bit because Apple used their own screws on this phone, and that's it. You unscrew the 2 screws on the bottom of the device and use a suction cup to pull up on the display. There's no glue, nothing like that on the newer phones. You just unscrew the screws and lift up on the glass. The only thing that you can't replace in this phone is the Touch ID sensor. If you break the Touch ID sensor, it is paired to the phone, so you can't replace the home button. However, if you replace the home button, you'll only lose Touch ID. The home button will still function as normal. So yes, technically you could still use an iPhone 5S in 2021. However, I definitely do not recommend it. It's definitely going to be slow and you're going to have to replace the battery, but it's not worth it. The only reason I can see anyone buying this device is, of course, if they want to get into repairing, as parts are cheap. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.